全て嘘だったんじゃないかと思えるくらい腹の底から出た本音。いるよ、真人。俺はお前だ。俺はお前を否定したかった。お前の言ったことなんて知らねえよって。ただお前を殺す。
To be real with you, I'm fairly new to the shonen scene when it comes to anime manga. However, my favorite moments from the times I have watched shonen is when the main character reaches that stage of self-actualization and self-acceptance, realizing that this is the world they live in, and this is who they are, and nothing will take that away from them. And the only thing they can really do is continue moving forward and fight with all their might. For example, Eren from Attack on Titan, in his own way, realizes this for himself, with him seeking freedom and unable to achieve it, and realizes that for himself. Also, another character like Ichigo from Bleach, with The Blade is Me, with him accepting every single part of himself which he rejected. I also have a video about The Blade is Me on my YouTube channel if you do want to check that out. Or even Thorfinn, when he says that he has no enemies and realizing that he does want to live a life without conflict and seeking that own sense of peace within himself. One of the most popular as well as recent forms in this would be Yuji Itadori, with his I'm you speech to Mahito. This is one of those things that he did want to reject, to not be as equal to a curse as a human himself. In this video, I want to go in depth as to why this single scene might single-handedly be the best main character development when it does come to Yuji. A lot of people probably already know it does, but maybe they don't understand why that is. Maybe it's simply because of all of the lobotomy Kaizen content that does come out that completely takes away from the significance behind this scene. Without further ado, I do want to go straight into this video. So it starts off when Yuji meets Junpei. Not specifically that, but what happens to Junpei? How do you would think that would become a main cast of the entire plot of JJK gets completely wiped out by Mahito. Only because of his expertise in manipulation, but as well as his powers, it completely rocks not only Junpei's, but Yuji's world as well. This is the first time that Yuji actually seen somebody who he was personally close to die. And this kind of sets the foundation of the theme of I'm You and the meaning behind it. Of course, in this scene, we do see like one of the sickest rage moments of all of anime. Yuji is pretty much getting attacked by Mahito. He tells Junpei to run and that he's not a good person. And of course, Junpei does realize this in the end of his life, realizes that Mahito isn't a good person. And of course, if you know who Mahito is, he's basically made up of human deceit and, you know, the sinful things that come with being a human. Yuji tries to save Junpei, calling out to Sukuna, and of course he gets rejected and laughed at by both Sukuna and Mahito. Yuji realizes that nobody is here to assist him or to save him, and that both Mahito and Sukuna are both just curses. And of course we see the Yuji rage scene right after, where he specifically doesn't say that he's gonna exorcise Mahito rather than kill him. And of course Mahito asks, why did you say kill? Which I feel like this is a pretty important statement that people skip over. I feel like in this scene, Yuji is slightly coming into terms that he is the same as Mahito. Mahito sees killing a human as simply killing, while this entire time Yuji was seeing them as exercising them. Like him specifically using the word kill makes him more alike to Mahito. Of course, Yuji's morality is that he feels like everybody should have a proper death, and seeing Junpei die by Mahito's hands to him is an improper death. Only is this entire scene rejecting his own reality, but also seeing his friend die who is close to him turns him into something slightly more identical to a curse. I feel like this entire scene should not be looked over as to why Yuji becomes who he is when he fights Mahito for the last time. Of course, this isn't the only instance where we do see Yuji's character transform into something else. Like the most prominent instances of when Yuji becomes who he is now is in Shibuya arc. The more greater and impactful moments of this is when Sukuna takes over Yuji's body. We see Sukuna basically rampage completely around Shibuya, fighting Joko and fighting Mahoraga, as well as killing anybody who stands in his way, or simply just for fun. This entire scene where Yuji is possessed is more so like a stepping stone as to when he starts fighting Mahito. However, it's very important to look at the facts when he does get his body back from Sukuna, which is he gets all of these flashbacks of what Sukuna did to Shibuya while he was possessed and unconscious. The destruction chaos, and murder all comes back to Yuji, and he has a really sad scene where he's sitting over this pit of what Sukuna has done to Shibuya, crying, throwing up, and saying that only he deserved to die. And he's slowly coming to that realization that he's actually in a war. This is real life. This isn't what he thinks it is, where he could exercise all the curses and be on his way. This is a very difficult challenge, and he's coming to that realization that he's actually in a war. Not a war between humans, of course, but sorcerers as well as curses. And in war, there's destruction. People who are close to you die. And he's slowly coming to this thought. Although I wouldn't say completely, because he's still worried about him dying, and if he dies or stops here, he is just a murderer. This goes to show that maybe he doesn't want people to die, but he's not complacent with just stopping here. He needs to keep moving forward so he doesn't have this label on himself that he's just a murderer. However, he still has that good human in him as to not wanting to kill and trying to find a simple way out and an easy way out from everything without destruction being caused. That is until he sees Nanami die right in front of him. Nanami was practically a role model to Yuji, somebody he looked up to become a greater Jujutsu sorcerer, practically like a father figure and a mentor to Yuji. Somebody just like Junpei he was very close to, and somebody that he knew personally. And Nanami dying right in front of him pretty much shook up his entire world. This started becoming his breaking point. Of course, that should be obvious. He lost to Choso. He killed a whole bunch of people after being possessed by Sukuna. On top of that, he just watched Nanami die right in front of him. However, it does get worse. One of his best friends, his teammate, dies right in front of him, Nobara. And at this point, it's pretty much obvious that Yuji's resolve is completely gone. He lets Mahito beat him up. Mahito gives Yuji a very, very important speech. And this speech is on the same level of importance as Yuji's I'm you speech. The whole time, Yuji's resolve when it did come to fighting was to correct his own mistakes that he's made as being a Jujutsu sorcerer. His resolve also suited in him believing that it would be an easy day. What Mahito says, some type of fairy tale. However, this exactly isn't the case. The whole point of this war is to see who's going to be alive 100 years from now. Selfish resolves like seeking redemption or fixing your past mistakes is pretty naive in this situation. Not only are you fighting for yourself, but you're trying to save the world practically. So going into this battle trying to fix your past mistakes, like killing all these people in Shibuya, or letting Nanami, Junpei, or Nobara die, is pretty naive. He went into this believing that if he keeps moving forward, he won't have to be seen as a murderer if he redeems himself. However, mistake after mistake after mistake and failure after failure is what leads him into losing his resolve instead of continuing to move forward. I feel like Mahito sees things simply as this is a war, and in war people die and people are killed, and the only way to win this war is to kill the other people. That's the point of a war. He's a Jujutsu sorcerer. His only job is to exercise curses. So having ulterior motives behind every action he takes is just gonna wear him down. And overall, having these ulterior motives are pretty senseless in the wide view of things. I wanna note that this entire fight between Yuji and Mahito is called Right and Wrong. Right and Wrong 1, 2, and 3. And I feel like the significance behind the title of these episodes is that there is no such thing as right or wrong in a war. In a war, you're not a murderer, you're somebody who's trying to survive and win. And trying to redeem yourself for being a murderer is exactly what Mahito's talking about when he says he is naive. Mahito specifically states that Yuji saves people without thinking as to how Mahito kills without thinking. He tells them that we are the same person, just doing what we think is right or wrong. And of course, this war is about seeing who is right and who is wrong. The winners are the ones who decide that. But in the sense of it all, nothing really matters. Your resolve, what you've done in the past, and what you do in the future doesn't matter. However, I feel like Yuji still doesn't realize this until Todo gives a speech of his own, which is one of the most important ones that affects Yuji in this entire scene. It also pretty much tells him that he's being naive. Him trying to find an ulterior meaning or a reason as to why everybody died is just disrespectful to the dead. The most important thing is to win this war, not to save other people or not to count how many people you killed, or not even to find reasoning behind the people that have died that were close to you, to win by any means necessary. And that's all that matters. Yuji realizes this, and instead of using his past mistakes or his sins to run away, he chooses to stay and fight and fulfill his duty as a Jujutsu sorcerer in Nanami's place. Realizing that Nanami probably went through the same things, he accepts that he needs to suffer in his place as well. Not only suffer, but seek victory and win this war. He realizes that his ideals of everybody dying an idealistic death or a proper death is pretty naive. So he throws away this resolve and his past ideas and chooses to fight. And fight he will. In the final fight between Mahito and Yuji, he actually does end up defeating Yuji. Oops, Mahito. So he actually does end up defeating Mahito. Then we finally see where everything comes into terms with himself, with his I'm you speech. This episode is called Metamorphosis, and although it could just be about Mahito transforming into his true form, it could also be Yuji transforming it into more of a Jujutsu sorcerer, and one that realizes himself what he must do. Where he admits that Mahito is right in everything he said, that they are the same person. Honestly, this is the worst thing that could happen to Mahito. The fact that Yuji will throw away his ideals and what he thinks is right or wrong to kill him, to understand that he's naive with wanting to seek something different from just killing or exercising curses and wanting to seek redemption. He specifically says, now it's different. I just want to kill you. He says, regardless of what you change your form into or your name or your shape, he's still gonna kill him. Regardless if he's reborn as another curse, he's gonna kill him. He doesn't need to seek reasoning or meaning behind every curse he kills, any person he saves, or any Jujutsu sorcerer who dies. And maybe killing Mahito won't mean anything at all. Maybe killing any other curse won't mean anything. Maybe it won't mean anything until centuries later, after this war is won. It says that he's a cog to a system, or like a piece to a puzzle. That although he might be very important for the system to work or the puzzle to be completed, he's very insignificant in the wide view. So all these naive ideals and meaningless ideals are exactly that, meaningless. And that his only mission in this war is to continue killing curses, not to find some type of philosophical meaning behind every single action he takes, rather than to do his job. And of course, that's when he understands that they are the same person, and that is his I'm you speech. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I feel like this entire speech is overlooked simply because of how, not only how badass it is, but the fact that there is like a lot of lobotomy kaizen that's out there. And although I know there's a lot of good themes as well as good speeches that are in JJK, however, I don't think any of them comes close to I'm you. However, the JJK series is still ongoing, so we may even see something better than this speech, which I completely wouldn't mind making a video about. So, if you liked the video and you do want to see more JJK or anime content in general, be sure to subscribe because I have a couple of video ideas I do want to make, and of course, I do want to get back to making content. I also have a group channel that I do work on, and we do like react to anime content, so if you would like to subscribe to that, then it's also in the description. And if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for watching. That's pretty much it. I hope you guys have a good day or night, and I'll see you guys on the next video.